Hi, everyone, and welcome back to George Explorers Coffee, and welcome to the very first episode of Micro Roasters, where we will be joined today by Ali from Love Letters Charming Coffees. And Love Letters, you might have seen their bags, you might have seen them on Instagram, you might have had these coffees before. And Ali will tell us a little bit about how Love Letters started, and it's a very interesting interview. I really hope you guys enjoy it. It really tells the story about how specialty coffee, how the industry kind of creates opportunities, and how it all, evolved into this roastery. And let me know if you have any ideas, any other roasters you would like for me to interview. Basically, I will interview different roasters across the world, different micro roasters, and kind of get an idea of how it all started. So feel free to leave your questions down below and hope you guys enjoy. All right, so welcome back. Today we are joined by Ali from Love Letters Charming Coffees. And by the way, this is so exciting. I've been wanting to do this interview with you for quite some time now, and I'm so happy that you could join us to tell us a little bit about, kind of what you do and your coffees and like how you get into specialty coffee. So yeah, man, like
Awesome.
let's start off there, right? Like, how did you get
Awesome.
into specialty coffee?
Yeah, so first of all, so glad to be here. Like really excited to finally like talk to you in person and everything like that. I know we've been chatting on Instagram, which I don't know, it's just so cool that
Yeah,
coffee can connect folks from all around the world.
right.
But yeah, I first got into
Yeah,
specialty coffee
yeah,
kind
man.
of by accident. So when I started in my first coffee job, I got because I was studying chemistry in school. And I was just kind of like a science nerd, like didn't have great people skills, was
Mm,
just kind of like a very to myself person. So I was like, wow, I need to figure out how to like get over that. So I got a really
yeah,
social job, of course, like got a job at a coffee shop, and turns out like I just really fell in love with coffee. So just who I am by nature, I love to be really great at whatever it is I do. So I started working there and it was like fine. There's like locally roasted
mm,
coffee. It wasn't anything super special, but I found barista competitions online because I was studying up how to be a great barista. What does it mean to be able to taste coffee? What are all these things on the bag mean? And pretty quickly I was like,
yeah.
wow, I love this. And there was never a doubt in my mind that specialty coffee is what I wanted to do. So yeah, really fortunate
That's so
that
cool.
I stumbled into that little cafe. Yeah.
Nice. And just out of curiosity, was that so that was a cafe that did like specialty coffee, like a light roast or medium or like
For the time it was
what kind
considered
of,
like light. I
yeah?
think now, yeah.
Mm,
For the time it
yeah.
was considered light for sure. But I think now we would probably, especially in the ultralight space, people would be like, this is coal. But no, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, it was, especially for the time, it was very lightly roasted, pretty single origin. They had all the like where it's from, the name of the farmers and everything like that. So, yeah, it was
Yeah,
very high
nice.
quality, higher quality than the coffee itself was higher quality than the cafe that I worked at, I will say. So I was like, why do you
Wow.
have this here? I was talking with the owner, like, what is this? And her
Yeah.
story was that she actually went to coffee school in Korea, learned all about
Mm,
single origin coffee, how to brew it, what it means, and everything like that, and actually moved from Korea to the States to open a specialty coffee cafe. And the town that we
nice.
were in, it was not really ready for specialty coffee. So she was like, I buy this because I love it. And like no one else in this town
Mm,
loves it, but I love it and I care about it. And I was like, I also care about it. And she kind of taught me a lot of the things that I first learned about specialty. So she gave me my first pour over set. She showed me how to do a V60, like taught me the things that she knew about dialing in, about temperature,
mm.
about all this stuff. So yeah, it was a really interesting way to get into specialty.
Nice, nice. And what made you like later on move into like roasting coffees? Was that something that you like developed like along the way, like starting to roast like a little bit at home and then like investing more time in that, or how did that go about?
Yeah, I mean, Roasting for me is actually fairly new. So I've been in coffee now for 12, going on 13 years, and I
Oh
spent a lot
wow.
of time managing cafes, working in cafes, doing barista competitions. Eventually, I moved to
Mm,
the wholesale side, so I did wholesale training and education, but I didn't start roasting until maybe 8 or 9 months ago.
nice.
And the way that I got into it was just because like I really wanted to do Brewers Cup this year. It had been a couple of years since I competed, and I was like, okay, I think I'm finally ready to reapproach competition. And I knew that the only way that I wanted to get up there was a way to represent community and the folks around me and
Mm,
everyone who helped me get to where I am at in the coffee industry. And for me, that meant like I know so many people importing green coffee that know about roasting, but I wanted to be
mm,
the one to roast it myself. And I wanted everything for that competition routine to be sourced from within the community.
mm.
So some friends let me borrow a bullet roaster. They also let me rent time on their strongholds.
Yeah.
I just brought as many folks around me as I could to like help me come with recipes, with the routine, with what the profile should be like. So that was really how
Nice.
I got into roasting. It was never an idea to like be a business. And then as I
Mm.
was learning to roast coffee, I was like, wait a sec, I love this. And I don't want to
Yeah.
stop just because of competition, you know? So
Mm.
yeah.
It feels like it with roasting especially, like I've done it like in the past a little bit, and it really requires like a lot of, at least from what I experienced, like attention to detail, right? Like things that like
Mm,
knowing what kind of bean you're working on, temperature, like the curves, right? Like when to drop the temperature, when like it really requires like a lot of you as a person to like pay attention to. And like how do you feel
yeah.
that like like is there a way to master that, or is that just something you learn like along the way, like with like you learn from your mistakes basically and grow from there?
Yeah. It's such a tough question. I mean,
Yeah.
even though I've been in coffee for a long time, like I know what coffee should or can taste like, which is
Mm,
great. But roasting is still fairly new to me. I do think if you have the right attention to detail and the right research and the right kind of curious mind, it's actually fairly easy to roast pretty good coffee.
mm,
Like the path to
yeah.
really solid is, it doesn't take very long. But then getting those little tweaks of,
Mm,
what does this specific origin need or what does this specific farm need and
yeah.
how to adjust those things. I don't know if you can ever truly master it, but I think that you
Mm,
can get as much information as you can just from trial and error and from experience to where you have a pretty good handle on it. I think like
yeah.
even the same farm from year over year, like I just sourced coffee from Juan Peña from La Papaya, and he's like, one of the
Oh,
most
nice.
meticulous, super consistent
Mm,
farmers that you can possibly get. And
yeah.
even for him, like at the end of the day, coffee is still an agricultural product and it's at the mercy of, you know, the seasons, the weather, everything like that. So even last year's harvest to this year's harvest is extremely different in
Mm,
terms of flavor, even though he is like a master of processing. So
mm,
yeah, in my opinion, the best that we can do as roasters and as coffee people is just like gain it, hold as much knowledge as you can and use that
mm.
to do the best that you can with the coffee that year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so cool. That's serious. Yeah, but I mean that is such an interesting approach, I feel, right? Because it takes time to like with anything within coffee, right? Like just to brew a good cup of coffee takes time to learn. Like you probably start off with a V60 or something like a
Hmm.
pretty easy recipe, and then you move on to the next step, and then you realize there are all these steps along the way because you're always chasing that cup
Yeah,
of coffee, right? That great cup. I imagine they're being like similar with roasting, right? That you're doing these different roast profiles, but you're chasing something. You're never really like satisfied, maybe like the same as with brewing, or is it different?
is roasting the same as with brewing, or what was the question?
Yeah, is it similar in that you're always chasing like the perfect roast, as in you're
Mm,
always chasing that perfect cup of coffee, even though you know that it might not like exist in a way, but you're always improving, you're always like adapting and trying out new things to kind of take your profile to, yeah, like to something beyond, I guess. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, no, for sure. Definitely. I mean, with both roasting and brewing, I think
yeah,
the idea of like the perfect is always
mm,
there's always going to be an ideal in my mind of what I think a coffee can taste like,
yeah,
but I don't think there's ever going to be like that one perfect roast or perfect brew. But yeah, I mean,
mm,
week over week, whenever I'm working with a coffee, I'm always like, okay, maybe I can tweak the end temperature a little bit, or
yeah,
maybe I can hit first
yeah,
crack with a little bit more energy, or maybe I
mm,
should, aim for a shorter development time but higher, and just kind of see how it goes,
yeah,
and just kind of because even from coffee to coffee, if I do the same things, it won't necessarily have the same effect in terms of flavor. So if I do a
yeah,
coffee from Kenya and I'm like, okay, I want a little bit more sweetness out of this, so I'm going to
mm,
extend my art a little bit. If I did the same
mm,
thing, if I was like using the same approach on a coffee from Colombia and like I want more sweetness, I want to extend my art,
yeah,
the result might not be the same. Maybe it'll, create a more baked
exactly,
flavor or
yeah,
something like that. So it's really just about listening to that specific coffee and understanding
mm,
how it reacts. So the way that
that's
I
so cool.
approach any coffee that I get in, I'll always hit
Mm,
it with the same profile. And then from there, I'll be like, I'll try to see how it reacts to my standard profile and
mm,
then make tiny adjustments there. Usually very small. Usually I'm like, okay, maybe I'll take the charge temperature down a little bit. Maybe I'll cut heat a little bit sooner.
mm,
Maybe I'll have a lower temperature, a lower end temperature, but really tiny, tiny little tweaks like that.
yeah,
And from there, as I work with the coffee, the profile will change just a little bit. The coffee ages, and
mm,
maybe I learned something from that coffee. And usually the last roast is just a tiny bit better than the first roast. But yeah,
that's so interesting.
always
Yeah,
improving. Especially like my friends when they ask me about my roast profiles and stuff, every couple of days I'm like, I have a new approach. I have a new approach. I have a new
yeah,
approach. I'm trying this new thing. And they're like, hey man, like your coffee, yeah, just relax.
yeah. No, because it's so interesting, right? Because I'm sipping right now on this the Marley Panama Geisha Plot 10, the sample roast,
So
and it
good.
just
Yeah.
it's so amazing. Like I wouldn't know this was a sample roast. Like this tastes amazing to me. It's incredible. Like
Yeah.
yeah, it's such a like so floral and dynamic, right? So and I
Yeah,
think same goes with the other
man.
coffees that I've had. They're like so special. But yeah,
Awesome.
but speaking, but farmers, like how is it like as a roaster to develop a relationship with a farmer, with a producer? Like, is that a
Mm.
is that something that how does that work exactly? Because I've always thought about that. Like how does like do you build a relationship on site and buy their coffees like there, or how exactly does that process work and that relationship build?
Yeah. It's still something I'm trying to wrap my head around as well. I mean, at least for
Mm,
me, everything that I want to do, I want to be as direct with the producer as possible. So a lot of times it can be difficult because in countries like, Ethiopia or Kenya, they have to move through certain like government exporters or certain companies
mm,
that are given government approval to export coffee. And so it can be really hard to find like who is really behind this coffee? Who are the producers? What are their
mm,
names? What's their life like? So it can be really difficult. In some other countries though, like Colombia, for example, it's pretty easy to just like find their WhatsApp, hit them up on WhatsApp and be like, hey, I've had your coffee from XYZ roaster. I see that, it's harvest season right now. I'd love to work with you. And it's
that's
pretty it's pretty easy to build a relationship that way and just like
mm,
have that kind of direct line, direct feedback and everything. So that's one way, I think. And then of
yeah,
course just like always a slow process and I'm still so new in the roasting world that
mm,
it's like It's a great question. So if someone has a better answer for it, I would love to know what it is. But
Yeah.
the main thing is just sourcing really great coffee when I can from where
Mm,
I can, whether that's from an importer or direct from the producer, and then just having a conversation with them regularly, like, hey, bought your coffee, it's tasting fantastic. I can't wait to see what you're doing with next harvest, or, is there anything that I can
yeah.
do on this side to
Mm,
showcase your coffee in a better light? Is there anything that you want folks to understand about your coffee that I can help you with as a roaster? So
yeah.
yeah, just approaching producers as, exactly what they are, people who are doing an amazing
Mm,
thing and deserve to be recognized for their work, I think is
nice.
really the best way to start. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I love that approach, and I think, like you say, like at the end of the day, like the producers and the terroir, that is one of the main reasons, like why we love specialty coffee. But it's also like sometimes when you see I was just speaking to a roaster earlier today and talking about how some of the farmers they meet, like they don't always get the money they deserve and things like that. So it kind of feels like
hmm,
like a lot of times, right? It depends on what relationship you build with them and like doing
totally.
direct trade, like just like you said, right? Because that's so cool, so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think another part of it too isn't just like the direct trade aspect of it, because some
Mm,
producers don't have the ability to do direct trade. Like they
mm,
don't have the infrastructure for it, or they just can't, there's not a way for them to get their coffee vacuum sealed and
mm.
onto a DHL or FedEx truck. So making sure that you're working
Exactly.
with importers that have better relationships with the producers
Mm,
and understanding who the importer is and what kind of things that they're doing to actually reinvest. So, like a great example of a coffee that I had recently is a Peru SL9, the
mm.
Eduardo Quispe's SL9.
Oh yeah.
I love that coffee. It's wonderful, it's
Mm,
fantastic. And specifically farmers from Peru in that region, it's hard for them to, export coffees themselves. So I work with an importer who I've known for 12 years, who has been going to Peru for 16 years and is heavily invested with these folks. And I feel really great about not
mm,
being direct trade in this situation because he and the producer have such an airtight relationship that I'm like, okay, cool.
mm.
Like, if my money going to you ends up supporting them, then that's wonderful. And the way that I can build a relationship with
Yeah.
that producer is hopefully one day getting to meet them, but saying, okay, I've loved your coffee this year. I'd love to purchase it next year. It doesn't matter to me
Yeah.
so much what the quality will be because I'm invested in what you're doing. So
Mm,
say I want to contract a coffee at 87 points, but it shows up to me at 86 and a half. I'm still going to
mm.
buy that coffee because it's more important for me that that producer created this product. It's still fantastic. And maybe we
Yeah.
can have an open dialogue about how it's tasting or what kinds of things
Mm,
they can do at the farm to boost that score. But they still get to know that
mm,
someone is going to buy their coffee and enjoy it. And I think
mm.
that's a better way than saying like, "Oh, okay, yeah, your coffee missed my quality standards, so I'm just not going to buy it. Maybe
Yeah.
next year."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's so interesting. Yeah. But I also like the fact that you like on your Instagram that you kind of post like with Edwin Arena coffee and like oh, I have this coffee, like let me know if you guys are interested in this coffee. And you have like this I love this relationship you have with your like audience or consumers, is that you kind of tell them, okay, this is the coffee I have, are you interested in a coffee like this? And then people will probably reach out, yeah, I'm super interested, like I'm all right. And then you kind of roast that coffee, right? And I like this sort of relationship because I don't often you don't see that too often. I don't feel that roasters have that kind of relationship with their consumers or followers, or do you know what I mean? Like,
Mm,
and also
yeah,
things like posting rest times, like, okay, this coffee will taste amazing in 4 to 6 weeks, or try this brew recipe to max clarity. Like these things, like you don't find them too often. And I think that is a great way of kind of making these coffees approachable for the majority of people, but also like showcase, okay,
totally.
this is what I have. Right. And I think that is something that like I can't recall that I see that too often. I think that's amazing, actually.
Awesome, dude. I'm glad that you
Yeah,
like it. Yeah,
but
it's one of those things, I just love talking about coffee. So if someone wants to hit me up and talk about coffee, like, yeah, let's talk.
yeah,
I think it's super exciting. But end of the day, like the person who creates demand is
mm,
you or whoever is purchasing the coffee.
mm,
And it's to me, it just makes the most sense to say, okay, this is my experience with this coffee. Like I think that
mm,
this coffee needs X amount of days of rest before it tastes great. Or, hey, this
yeah,
coffee is roasted a little bit lighter. Maybe you should grind a little bit finer because,
mm,
dude, it sucks to purchase a coffee that's like $25 for 120 grams. And then you spend half the bag just trying to dial it in when it's like,
yeah,
that the roaster has done that work. Like they know
yeah,
they might have to grind finer or that it extracts a little bit differently. So why not
mm,
be more transparent about it? And I don't think that roasters are like withholding that information on purpose. I
mm,
think that a lot of times roasters are like, they haven't been on the consumer side. So
mm,
another way that I got into roasting is I've loved coffee my entire career. Like I have
mm.
freezers over here that are full of other roasters roasted coffee. So
That's amazing.
I'm just like, also I'm an insane coffee consumer as well. And those are the things that I'm like, I always wish that I had this from the roaster. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I would love for folks to have the best experience of the coffee that they possibly can.
mm,
And yeah, having that dialogue. And I also don't want to bring on coffees that like people just aren't interested in or
yeah, right.
whatever the case is. Cause then it's like, then it just kind of sits and dies. And then when someone does buy it, it's like not at its
Mm.
peak anymore. And yeah, so I'm always interested in like what people actually want.
Exactly. And I think that it kind of helps in a way that you've been on the other side. You've been the consumer. You've been the sort of coffee explorer. You know how it's like to wait for a coffee for it to shine. And I think that it's awesome that you also like, I think a while ago you posted like how many would be interested in like something like a Nordic style roast, right? Something more, like on the sweeter side or maybe a bit easier to extract. That just shows like kind of not just flexibility, but also like, okay, I have these amazing ultralight coffees, but if some of you are interested in something a bit more like Nordic style, like that's also possible, but just let me know in a way, right? And I think this kind of an
Yeah,
approach it's interesting, like because it just shows like how you kind of listen carefully to, okay, what are people interested in and how can I kind of provide that, right, to give them a good experience of specialty
definitely.
coffee or introduction, or yeah,
For sure.
yeah, I think that's
Yeah, I
awesome.
mean, one thing that
Yeah.
I see, awesome, man. I'm glad that you love it. One thing that I really thought hard about whenever I was creating love letters and like what I wanted it to be and the
Mm,
way that I wanted people to interact with it is like, what am I really selling? Like, what am I adding to the specialty coffee world?
mm,
Because there's any number of fantastic ultralight roasters. There's any number of
yeah,
amazing Nordic roasters. So many folks are sourcing amazing coffee and roasting it super well. And
yeah,
I was like, okay, so like what makes what I do different or how would it be different outside of just like, I love roasting coffee and I want to do it.
yeah,
And what I realized is I think what a lot of folks do is they roast coffee and they think that they're selling coffee. To me,
mm,
like coffee is more of a tool to me for what I'm actually
mm,
selling or what I'm actually
mm,
inviting, which is communication. I think coffee is communication. So
yeah,
whenever I purchase a green coffee, the way that I roast it, I'm trying to communicate something to the consumer. And instead of being
mm,
cryptic about it and being like, I hope you see what I see, I'm just going to tell
yeah,
you what I see and like what I think is best. And if
mm,
to me, like a key part of communication, talking to the other person and saying like, are you
mm,
picking up what I'm putting down? Like, does this make sense to you? Or would it be helpful
mm,
if I showed it to you in a different way? And so
yeah,
like we can have the same coffee from like a roaster like Say who roasts for sure very,
mm,
very light, but they're easily to extract, easily soluble, emphasis on acidity and
mm,
vibrancy versus, a roaster like Bots who they still roast
yeah,
super light, also very easy to extract, but emphasis on like sweetness and comfort and that kind of thing.
Mm,
So they
exactly.
can communicate two very different sides of the same coffee with the way that
Mm.
they roast. So yeah, I'm just trying to find out like what do folks want to hear from me? How do they want the coffee communicated to them?
Yeah, I mean that is awesome, and I totally agree with you that it's like so like each roaster have their way of putting their signature like on the like you said like baths very sweet, very comforting, safe, like vibrant, juicy, and it's so interesting. And like, what would you say your kind of signature profile is on your like your touch to your coffees, like the roaster's touch that you kind of add to them?
Yeah. The coffees that I source and the way that I want to roast them, I think almost everything I select is based on aroma and florality. I think, and that's
Mm,
why like Love Letters has so much floral tones to it, from the
mm,
branding to the stamp to the logo and everything like that. Coffees that
mm.
are super floral and expressive in that way are so fun to me. Because I
Yeah.
think it's like it kind of takes the coffee drinker out of their usual experience with coffee, and you're like, whoa, like it just kind of creates a
Yeah.
different sensation. I don't know. And I just love floral flavors. Like almost every coffee that I have on the menu, it has some kind of
Mm,
floral component to it, and I know that coffees, when roasted in a particular way, can have that kind of expressive
mm.
florality. So I'd say florality is number one on my priority list. And then second is like sweet fruit character. So I
Yeah.
love tropical fruit notes. I love like bright, juicy
Mm,
tones and that kind of thing. So anything that is like floral with tropical fruit,
mm.
I'm here for it. So
Yeah. Yeah. I
that's
love
kind
that
of
too. Yeah.
how I try to approach things. Totally. And then like of
Yeah.
course I love sweetness in a roast. So I think especially when you have just really great coffees, they'll naturally have a little bit of sweetness to them. So whenever I'm
Mm.
roasting on the stronghold, I add a little bit of halogen and I use a tiny, tiny bit of drum heat just to get some caramelization.
Oh.
And I feel like it kind of helps support everything. Whereas a lot of folks who are in the UL space are
Mm.
hitting that are using strongholds, they do no drum heat, no halogen, because they're going for as much expressive acidity as possible. My
That's
coffees I feel
fascinating.
like tend to
Yeah.
have kind of a more medium or kind of like lower acidity in exchange for more
Mm.
florality and more sweetness.
Oh, yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Like with the floral attribute, they're like expressed in a very like in a very unique way. Because with the Edwin Norena, the Black Honey Geisha, for example, I think chamomile is one of the flavor notes. And I was talking to a friend about it the
Hmm.
other day because we were both drinking this coffee, and he was like, "Man, I've had coffees with chamomile as a note, but I've never had it expressed in this. Like, this tastes like you have like a very nice, fancy cup of chamomile tea in a way. Like it's expressed in such a
Yeah,
beautiful, dynamic way." And I totally agree because like chamomile can be expressed like as a flavor note. It can be expressed in such a unique way in different coffees. But with that particular coffee and with your roast style, it really made it like it's very hard to explain, but it's like I've never had a chamomile flavor note that way that I had when I brewed it. So that was like super
awesome.
interesting to me. Like, man,
Yeah,
I think something here is like, yeah, it's so fascinating. Yeah,
yeah, I love it. And I love
but
chamomile. I mean, yeah, I have an insane amount
yeah,
of fancy chamomile in the cabinet over there. So I'm glad that it landed.
yeah. But I mean, you mentioned something earlier that you also competed in coffee before, or yeah, is that
Yeah,
something you still
definitely.
do,
Few
or
years.
nice? And would you like to tell us a little bit about that? And is it something you still do? And if it's something you do you use your coffees to compete, or?
Yeah, at least it's definitely something I'll continue to do. So whenever I
Mm,
got into coffee and learned about coffee competition, like, of course I wanted to get better at coffee, but I set a goal for myself, which I don't know if it's
mm.
like too lofty or like insane, but I told myself that I would compete every year until I won 3 years in a row, and then I would never compete again. So until that
Nice.
happens, I'm gonna keep coming up on stage.
That's awesome, man. Yeah.
But no, this year was the first year that I got to select and roast my own coffee. So every year that I compete going
Mm,
forward will be the same way. And
mm,
yeah, I kind of I don't care so much now about the outcome of like winning or whatever it is.
mm,
It's more so I kind of view it as a litmus test of, am I improving? Did I learn something with this?
mm,
Because having that goal of like getting up there and doing the best that you can, it pushes you so
mm.
far. So if I just
Yeah.
wanted to learn how to roast on my own and I didn't have this thing that was like pushing me to be better, because I know how many amazing competitors there are out there, I
Mm,
don't know that I would be as good as I am now. Not that I think I'm the best or whatever it is, but I think I'm pretty solid.
yeah.
So yeah, I think of it more as like a motivation to improve, and then being able to go up on stage and see measurable
Mm,
change in the scores or in your placement or feedback from the judges, or even
mm.
from folks that watch it. I think it's just a really cool way to motivate myself.
That's so cool. And also, like, such a,
Yeah.
I think that's also something you can, because there are a few, like, like I'm thinking about Matt Winton, for example. He has he also roasts coffee, I believe. And I
Hmm.
think that is something like you see a lot of competitors roasting their own coffee. So it's kind of an interesting trend, or, I mean, I think that is interesting because that shows that you kind of use that experience as a competitor and you roast, and you maybe have this competitive mindset to kind of improve your coffee or take it to, like you said, like you, as long as you keep improving, at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Yeah.
Totally.
But
Yeah.
it, yeah.
And it was really cool because like I didn't know how my roast would land with folks, because at that time I wasn't selling anything either. I was
Mm.
just roasting at home and being like, I think that this is really, really good. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems like, at least in the competition space, it seems fairly uncommon to have an ultralight roast on stage. I was like, I don't even know
Mm.
if the judges will like this. This is like not part of what has historically been on the stage. And, you know, the
Mm.
coffee that you're drinking, the Edwin Norina, is exactly the one that I took on stage with a very similar roast profile.
Oh
And they loved
yeah.
it, you know, like one of the judges gave me almost perfect marks on that cup. And I was like, okay, cool. So like, it's possible to do ultralight in a way that is approachable and understandable and excellent. So
Yeah.
that was really exciting.
That is so cool. I mean, I feel that with ultralight coffees, like it feels to me at least. I mean, I don't know if it is true, so that's what I'm going to ask you. Like, is it harder to roast ultralight roasted coffees than, let's say, Nordic style profile?
I don't, I don't know. I actually don't. I think
Mm,
type of, each style of roast has its own challenges. I think the harder
mm,
part for ultralight is sourcing coffee that can stand up to that type of roast. So,
mm,
you know, I try to look for different qualities like elevation, like density, presentation of acidity on the sample table, and that sort of thing. Not
mm,
every coffee can take to an ultralight roast. So if I took like something that would be, you know, really, really tasty, for example, like a high scoring Brazil natural, you know, the attributes of that coffee that make it high scoring probably don't come across very well in an ultralight, but they would come across really well in a Nordic. So it's more about picking the
yeah.
right coffees that can handle it.
That's interesting. And is that something that you learn along the way? Like, okay, that coffee will not be suited for an ultralight, but this one will. Like, is that something that you like learn, like about elevation and varietals and yeah.
Yeah, you definitely learn for sure. Like
Mm,
whenever I was first learning to roast, I bought
mm,
an insane amount of coffee from all
yeah.
over, you know, like I bought coffees from
Mm,
India, Ethiopia, Mexico, Peru, El Salvador,
mm,
all kinds of different elevations, different processes and everything like that, different
mm,
varieties just to see. So I think it all just comes down to like experimentation and everything like that.
yeah.
So if I look at a coffee and I know that it has high elevation, it's the right variety, like a Katura or a Geisha or something like that,
Mm,
and it's a washed process, I'm like, okay, at least these things tell me that it would probably do all right as an ultralight
mm,
roast. And then, you know, the best thing that you can do is grab a sample of it try it out
Yeah.
and taste it. And if it works, then great, let's go for it. But sometimes you just gotta take a leap of faith and be like, I'm just gonna send it on this bag and hope that it works out.
Yeah.
And if not, then, I have coffee to experiment with. But yeah.
That's awesome. And is espresso roast something that you thought about in the future, or is it for the moment like ultralight and filter roasts?
Yeah, I'm actually thinking about espresso right now because
Mm,
I recognize that a lot of folks at home, even like not even necessarily just for espresso, but part of why I was asking like this more
mm,
Nordic style or like a more like light medium is the
yeah.
vast majority of specialty coffee drinkers are in that realm. Like, and I think
Mm,
if I want to communicate something about coffee to more people, that is the type of roast that will get more people involved in the conversation. I think like
yeah.
if you took someone who is drinking like your normal whatever popular chain coffee
Mm,
and you gave them Edwin Norina's Black Honey Geisha, they'd be like,
yeah.
"What is this, dude? This isn't even coffee," you
Yeah.
know? So, but if you take that coffee drinker and you give
Mm,
them like a fairly lightly roasted Pink Bourbon Columbia, it still has enough to
mm,
say like, okay, this reads to me as coffee. I understand this as coffee, but why is this like, it's a little sweet. There's a little fruit to it. It's a little floral.
yeah.
So yeah, I want to be able to help people in their entire journey through specialty before just hitting them with
Mm.
like, all right, man, we're gonna drink, Altieri natural, like river cold ferment Gesha right now.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that is
So
so, yeah, that's awesome. But I mean, it's like
yeah,
kind of meeting people where they are in their specialty coffee journey in a way, and kind of guiding them
totally.
through like, all right, yeah, that's awesome. And just question that I've been thinking about. I mean, and I asked you this, but for the audience who are curious, because I know a lot of people. I get questions about water a lot, like, okay, what water do you use when you brew coffee? And I know like a lot of
Mm,
roasters, they have like their own kind of water that they cup with and so on. But not all roasters do, and it's not something that you have to have. But it's like, so I'm just curious to hear like, what is your approach to like brew water? Do you have like water recipe that you use for your coffees, or yeah?
yeah, I tinker with a lot of different things. I think
Mm,
my go-to water recipe is actually Alex over at Thankfully Coffee. He published his lotus water recipe that he uses,
yeah,
and I've just been using that. I think it's awesome.
yeah,
And
awesome.
it's consistent and I can buy a lot of like distilled water and do it that way.
Mm,
Sometimes like that's usually what I'll do with my sample roasts. So sample roast,
mm,
I'll use that because I know that it's going to be consistent and good. And then whenever I'm dialing in a roast, like say I've already purchased a coffee and I want to dial it in a little bit more,
mm,
I will and see like what kind of different facets that coffee has. I'll
yeah,
use something like I'll brew with just pure distilled water and then add in like a little bit of lilac and be like, okay, what kind of florality does this have? Or I'll try
mm,
jam or tonic or something and just see how different mineral contents will
yeah,
kind of adjust and what kind of different facets could be hiding in the coffee that I'm not seeing because of just using one
mm,
mineral profile. And then
mm,
yeah, that's usually what I do. So
yeah.
the long answer short is I usually just use Thankfully's recipe because I think it's great.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it totally is. And I also think, like, in general, like for these coffees, I don't think there is like a wrong water to use unless you're probably using like super, super hard 400 ppm water. Maybe that will
Yeah,
probably not be ideal. But if you use like this morning, I used third wave water like at half strength, and again was tasting great. I added like
yeah,
a drop of lilac, and then like, oh, the florals just came alive, right? So I get the feeling that these coffees are very like flexible in that you can kind of use
totally.
different waters and it'll taste amazing. Yeah, which is not
Yeah,
always
I
easy
think so
to
too.
do, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like as long as your water is pretty good,
Mm,
I don't think there's too much to really like.
mm,
I mean, of course you can, but I don't think there's too much to like really dig into hard there. You can, of course, like we're all
mm.
tinkerers, right? Especially people in this coffee space.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you find enjoyment out of tinkering with water and like finding that perfect mineral content, dude,
Yeah.
go for it. Like, I love that for you. But for me, I'm just like, all right, cool. Like, I know that my water is pretty solid. This is good, whether it's third wave water or half
Mm.
strength. I'll use, um, sometimes I'll mess around with aqua code at half strength. I really like
Yeah.
that. The folks over at Prodigal told me about this Hawaiian volcanic water, Waiakea water. I use that
Oh, I've
sometimes.
heard about that. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's good. I'll actually use that at half strength. So I'll mix that half with distilled sometimes just to see. So
Mm.
I think like as long as your water is pretty solid, I think
Mm.
everything else will make a bigger difference in your brew. Say like make sure your grind is correct, make sure your recipe is good,
Yeah.
make sure, you know, you're using coffee at the right time and everything like
Yeah.
that. So water is super important, but it's the thing that I mess with the least.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, it is like it is an important factor, but it's not something that like you can really go into a rabbit hole there. But sometimes, just like you say, if you have good water, you have good coffee, you have like a good grind size kind of, and yeah, that's pretty much. I mean, that'll take you almost like kind of where you need to go. But I also really
Totally.
like your recipe, right? Like, yeah, like
Oh,
your
nice.
max
Yeah,
clarity
the one
recipe
that
is
I have
super
posted.
easy. Yeah, it's like super easy to use, super like you just do your bloom and then you just do mellow drip all the way up to like 240. I mean, I love how easy it is and how
Totally.
good cups you get out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super great. I think like I know that it works really well for my coffees too, because the way
Mm.
that the Stronghold roasts with like the mix of halogen and like radiative heat from the drum, it makes things super soluble, even at
Yeah.
even at an extremely light roast. So I'm like, all right, cool. Like we don't have to mess with these 5 pour, like ultra fine
Mm.
grind, just like get in there, get most of the extraction done in that 60-second bloom, and then just like let the water
Yeah.
and the bed of coffee do the rest with the mellow drip. So I love it. It's great.
Yeah. Awesome. Man, that's great. I just have a final question. Like, what is your like goals for the future for Love Letters Charming Coffees? Like, what do you have like in mind? Like, all right, this is kind of a vision I have for this roastery.
And yeah, it's always kind of stayed the same, but is always changing at the same time. I think like the first goal for Love Letter is it has to stay true to what it is and like why it exists, right? Like I started Love Letter because it truly is like my love letter to the industry that has given me everything. I've been in
Mm.
coffee almost my entire adult life, you know what I mean?
Mm.
So if it grows organically into something while I still get to like have that kind of romantic feeling towards it, that it still lands with people in the correct way, then that's the first goal. And then of course, like
Mm.
the stage that Love Letters is in right now, it's so small. I'm so small. It's just me and like, you know, you probably received 3 or 4 different types of bags in your box from me. Mm.
Yeah.
So it is very much in like
Mm.
extremely early, like if this was a video game or something, this would be pre-alpha, like pre-alpha testing, essentially. So I want Love Letters to be so much more than it is right now. And I
Mm.
want it to be like, I want it to help more people understand coffee in a different way than they've experienced it before. I think like
Mm.
a lot of, especially in the ultralight, but even in like the upper echelon of light roasters, like folks like Onyx and Say and that kind of thing, I think there's a
Yeah.
lot left on the table as far as like engagement and branding and like the way that it can fit into your life. I want
Mm.
Love Letters to show that like coffee can be so much more than just coffee. And that's why you'll see it as it starts to come out, the branding, the brand, the packaging and everything like that. It's going to be a lot less focused on just the coffee, but more about like the feeling that coffee can give you or like the kind of feeling I want to convey when I drink the coffee and that I want you to
Yeah.
experience. So I don't really know how to put it into words yet, but I want Love Letters to
Mm.
be more than just a coffee brand. I want it to be like an experience, something that helps you like slow down and appreciate the romanticism of coffee, what kind of place it has played in my life, what kind of place it can play in yours. outside of just this kind of mental exercise that we do with brewing the perfect cup of coffee.
Mm.
You can definitely do that with my coffee, but I also I want it to be a reminder to just like enjoy this incredible product while we have it. And you're
Yeah,
never going to be able to taste that same coffee the same way ever again. So like enjoy that moment with it.
that's so beautifully said, and that is true,
Which
right?
is
I
kind of
mean,
why
once, like,
like
yeah,
I was just gonna say like that's why I think the name Love Letter. There's so many reasons why I called Love Letters Love Letter,
mm,
but like the idea of a love letter is like you have so much emotion in that moment that you had to write it down and you had to make sure that someone understood that. And it
yeah,
really is like a picture of how you're feeling in that time, in that moment, about a person or a place or a thing or whatever your experience is. And that's how I want people to approach the coffees too, because the coffee that was roasted and sent to you and at that specific age with your water, with your brewing recipe, no
mm,
one else is ever going to experience that. So like enjoy it and like enjoy it
mm,
as if it were a love letter written just for you, because it is in a lot of ways.
yeah, it is. And it's all, I mean, in a way, like you just said it beautifully right there. Like, specialty coffee is about those moments and to capture those moments and to kind of be present, right? And to enjoy it. Because once it's gone, it's gone. uh,
Yeah, totally.
yeah.
So yeah, I want love letter,
Well, that's, yeah.
whatever it ends up becoming, and like the way that the direction that it's going, it needs to still capture that. So that's the goal.
Mm, nice. Nice. Well, I wish you all the best with that goal. And I think you've produced something amazing here. And I hope more people, like a lot of people, get the chance to experience these coffees because they are like something, like just as I told you the other day, like I've had ultralight roasted coffees before. I've never had them like this. And what I mean by that is I've had ultralights that I've rested for 60 days, sometimes even 70 days, and I'm still tasting that kind of grainy or grass-like attribute. That to me is
Mm,
like tasting underdeveloped. And I'm like, okay, this might not be my thing. I don't
yeah,
like tasting underdeveloped coffees. But then somehow, and I just stumbled onto these. And shout out to Robert Chai because he was the one that recommended me to try these coffees. And ever since
I
I
love
was like,
Rob.
all right, yeah, he's such a great guy. He's actually it's such a funny story. I was like skeptical about Cedras in general, but but after like chatting with him, I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna give Cedras like a second chance to try more Cedra coffees, and it's kind of made me to reevaluate. Like they can be really amazing. But anyway,
Yeah,
what I was trying to say is these coffees, they've kind of made me to understand that, all right, there is another side to what ultralight can be. And that is kind of what I hope that more people, right, get the chance to experience because it's so easy to be like, all right, I don't like it because it's underdeveloped. I've tried it from this roaster, I've tried it, but I think that once it's roasted this way, it will be a unique experience. Like just like you said, like you sit down and you like enjoy it and you like, yeah, it's a different experience. And I hope
totally.
more people get the chance
Awesome,
to
man.
experience
I'm
that.
so glad. I'm so
Yeah.
glad that you love it. Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for saying all that. That's
Yeah. It's
amazing.
amazing.
I also hope more
Yeah.
people get to
And
try it.
yeah. Yeah. And it's something we should mention to our viewers because they might not, I don't know if you mentioned it, but so I am located in Stockholm, Sweden, and you are located in Dallas or,
Yeah,
yeah,
Dallas, Texas right now.
Dallas, Texas. So we are basically on the other side of the world, and I'm experiencing your coffees. That just goes to show how specialty coffee doesn't have borders, right? It's something that kind of is
Yeah.
global, and just goes to show that it's something I think that because the community is not, it is kind of small in a way that once people start to talk, it doesn't have borders in that people will experience these coffees if they are curious enough, they will find a way.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And I think even just that in itself is like so beautiful that we're even able to experience that. Like,
Yeah.
even outside of coffee, like one of my hobbies is I love cooking. And sometimes
Mm,
like before I cook, I'll like put out all the ingredients and like same with coffee. And I'll just take a moment to be
mm,
like, okay, cool. Like this tomato is grown in Mexico. This avocado's from Guatemala. This knife I bought
mm,
is from a small maker in Japan with a cutting board from wood in Canada. Like, and even when it comes to coffee, like, wow, this brewer is from Japan and this coffee is from Colombia, and I get to send it to someone in Stockholm,
mm.
Sweden, who's gonna brew it on a brewer from, Japan with a filter made in Spain. Like,
Yeah.
just taking a moment to
Yeah.
understand those little tiny things is so
Mm,
is so gratifying, and then the coffee tastes awesome,
mm.
and you're like, hell yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
So cool.
That's That is so cool. That is so cool. And for people that are curious, because we should mention this as well, you also, from what I understand, you do ship internationally as well, or is it something that you're working on, or?
It's I do. It's of course a case by case basis, and like
Mm,
I can offer free shipping in the US, which is great for a lot of
mm, of
orders, but international, it depends on tariffs and like those kinds of laws
course.
and stuff. But if
Yeah.
you are international, please just contact
Mm,
me directly. I'm sure we can find a way to get it out there. But I'm also trying to
yeah.
work with different subscriptions in Europe to get my coffee out there. So I don't want to say anything too soon, but hopefully there'll be a couple of retailers carrying some coffee in Europe soon enough.
Nice. Yeah. That's awesome. Let's
Yeah,
hope so. And yeah, it's just been amazing to talk to you and to kind of get an idea of the work that goes into roasting these beautiful coffees here. So yeah,
awesome.
awesome.
Cool, man.
Yeah, of
Well, thanks so much for doing this and the time and taking your
course.
chance on a
Thank you.
random roaster from middle of nowhere, Texas, and I'm glad that it paid
Yeah,
off.
yeah, man. Thank you as well. And thank you to all of those of you that have listened to this interview. It's really been yeah, it's been awesome to have you guys listening as well. And this will be available. I will post this on my Instagram and my YouTube so you can check it out. So yeah, it's gonna be
Awesome,
amazing as well. But yeah,
dude. I'm
thank you
so
guys so
excited. I
much for
can't wait.
watching. And yeah,
All right, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed this interview, and as I mentioned earlier, feel free to leave your questions down below if you have any questions for me or for Ali. And thank you so much to Ali again for doing this interview and tell us this incredible story of how it all started and his roasting philosophy. And as I mentioned earlier, leave your questions, or if you have any roasters you would like for me to interview, I would love to hear you guys' feedback. Thank you guys so much, and till next time, wish you all a good day.